still trying to say to everybody out there that's listening, we're going to feed you information. You're going to have to pick and choose what you can put together. I mean, you're not going to be able to prove our experiences. Personal experience is just that. It's a person's experience. When a person says they talk to God, is it believable or not? I mean, when a person says they were dealing with 10 aliens and they were all talking to them, well, that's their choice. But here's the bottom line for everything that's happening. What is the reason for it to happen, and what is it going to do to society and the world itself? Now, they're the things that are important, not how many people say something, how many people had this or did that, or even how many pictures of a UFO are in the sky. Why are they really here? What are they really going to do? Is it going to help anybody or is it not? And the only solution and scenario I'll give to you, look at the Earth right now, look at the condition of the planet, and look at the things that are happening that are not normal. Just about everything that's happening is not normal. The earthquake chart's not normal. The amount of herds of animals dying in one period of time is not normal. And I'm hardcore. I mean, I'll debate people when somebody says something so ridiculous out of their programmed idea of what's true. When somebody said that herds of elk were dying because they drank water from the eruption up on the mountain, I said that's impossible because herds of deer have been dying across the United States. Herds of elk have been dying in large herds. And I was with a person whose husband was the top specialist in the field, had to classify elk dying as cow disease, the mad cow disease. Again, how's a herd of elk in the wild come down with mad cow disease? So the scenarios when government has to release facts on it, and I'll tell you personally, the people that I know that disappeared or in jail or in the nut house, the stories were completely twisted, exaggerated, and transformed into something totally ridiculous. And please, just because more people come out and say it doesn't mean the government's going to tell the truth about it. All the UFO stuff, they can't deny that because everybody sees it. How many people know what they're really doing? Now, the last thing I'll give you on that, because I was involved with hypnosis, I was doing that when I started when I was 14 years old. I did past life regression. I did psychic implant removals. I did all that myself without schooling, without teachers telling me what's right, what's wrong, or how to do it. When a person gets abducted, and I work with people that got abducted, they can be programmed with whatever the race that abducted them wants them to believe. So the same as the government has been programming people in the army. So you got the government and aliens reprogramming people to believe what they want them to. So when a person comes out and says something, well, they could have been with an alien. They could have been on a ship. But because their experiences, well, they had dinner and they had steak dinner and it was a really great time, doesn't mean that's what the aliens really did. Tina, did you want to say something?
No, yeah, so you're very right, Tommy. Everyone's experience is different, and just because they say it doesn't make it real. And again, something TJ said, and you said, is about proof. Like, going to take it back one step to something TJ said. It's like there's a guy, who I think he's died now, his name was John Mack. I think, if I get it right, he was a psychiatrist. And he said he'd do evaluations, if I got this right, on abductees to see if they were saying what they were saying were true. And in the end, his conclusions after interviewing all these different people that were referred to him is that, yes, it is a phenomenon. It's not a human phenomenon. It is something that's physically, biologically happening to human beings. Now, that is proof. That is scientific proof from the scientific community. That's fine. Like you said, everybody has their own proof, their own realization, and their own stories. And again, like what you said about proof is, like my story is my family are here, my partner's been here, and you said like people with injuries or how do you prove that it's happened to you? They found things inside of my body and inside my partner's body at the same depth, deep inside the body, things that you couldn't do to yourself. How do you scientifically explain that? So if I had an ulcer and scrape marks and marks of the identical depth inside my body, on the same night, the same thing happened to my partner, showed up a week later or months later on a scan. I had a scan, and my doctor referred my partner to a scan, and we both had the same results at the same depth inside our bodies. Is that evidence?
Well, that's definite evidence. See, we can get evidence in between the. I want to say this: science, and there was a special on it years ago, where the government did research on abductees. They measured their pulses, they put them in dream state and all that, and they said an average person under certain situations create aliens, and that was the government's scenario of what really happens. I'm not saying it's right; it's definitely not.
Yeah.
But it's easy for an alien implant to implant whatever their thoughts on that. Now, when we go through history, there's a word called out-of-place artifact, meaning things that cannot exist in history. Yeah. And I'm saying my friend has one, and he wants $1 million for it. But basically, it's an artifact that's here that cannot be here. So the only way it could have gotten there is somebody put it there. It just didn't pop out of the inner worlds and pop up there. So aliens did have the ability to time travel and do all those things. And what I will suggest and tell people right now, because I was friends with the only person that I know has definitely gone back in time and forward, that implants of things can be implanted on this planet. One of the most famous UFO people a long time ago, Billy Myers, was one of those people that filmed UFOs all the time and everything else. But his proof was he went inside a cave, pulled out a manuscript supposedly written by Judas, or Judas's biography, and it was called The Town of Jamad. And that manuscript says Judas was an alien. So obviously, a year later, actual manuscripts were found, and it was in pieces. It took a year to piece it together, but it was another manuscript of Judas's story. So I would prefer to people to think about that. If this alien person working with aliens comes out with proof of something that's outside the history that we know, it is changed. Now, we keep finding pyramids.
No, I agree with that. Because there's a lot of things, nearly every story in the Bible or historical artifacts or things that are dug up, manuscripts and different Bibles, and I don't want to bring religion into this, but nearly every story, like they can prove the Great Flood because different civilizations had it, and they can prove it because they drew what they saw. If they drew what they saw, that's a form of evidence. They've been drawing UFOs for hundreds or millions of years. But artifacts, I think I'm not sure if I've got to disagree with you there, or I am. I think I'm going to say no. I don't think we understand enough about human civilization. We know, like you said earlier, we know more about space and different star systems and which way the sun goes up and down than we do about Earth. And if we can't even tell you where human beings came from or even prove it, then why should we believe in the rest of science? That is just one person's point of view. We need to know more about our origins and our Earth and where we came from, I think, than we should space exploration. Well, I know that it's pushing the cart before the horse, but they can dig up stuff and say, yes, it's fake, it's fake, it's fake. But it may not be. It may be millions of years old, but they can't prove it. Yeah.
I think one will lead to the other. I personally want space exploration, but I want us to know more about our origin. And now we're talking more philosophy and ufology than we ever have, with people that, like Stan Friedman just passed, but he was very much on get the facts.
Yeah.
He was a physicist. But on the other hand, we have so many philosophers and some psychologists and people that are working, and somebody invoked John Mack, but there's Bud Hopkins, David Jacobs, John Carpenter, people like that. And so, everybody has their own point of view, but many people are really discovering the multidimensionals with the abductees, experiencers, and we're getting into quantum physics and, the multidimensional notion of the universe, and also Tom Campbell and the theory of everything. You say my big toe, but TOE being theory of everything. The hard question is origin, because no matter what we do, no matter how many things we say we see or don't see, whether they're UFOs or just something we don't recognize flying through the air, that's the simplest term. My husband used to take a pen for the military and the government to show him what a UFO was, but he'd take anything off of his podium and throw it, in the Army when he was teaching intelligence. And, they'd ask somebody what that was, and it's, I don't know, was it? They'd be guessing. He said that is the basics of what we're talking about here. It's an unidentified flying object. So that's the basic. All right, just the basic how you teach someone something flying through the air you don't recognize, so it's unidentified. Now, what all these people working in transformation of philosophy is because nothing really can be proven the way we think unless we use our senses as a humanoid, as a biological. And each person has their own biological understanding, their perceptions, their filters, their opinions. And in philosophy, which is basically what the three of us are as armchair philosophers for anybody listening to us, is we'll each have our own idea of what ufology is. Ooh, that must be Tommy or... But, the hybrid children was a big point with these people, and whether it's still happening in a multidimensional reality nowadays. And I'm looking into origin like you, Tina, as to, I'm more interested in the neuro part as to what's on the other side of the Big Bang, because we can take our origin, through the UFO, multi-dimensions, all the way back to the scientists call it the Big Bang, but there's always something on the other side. Nobody can explain, and Tommy can go into that too, because we don't know we can say we came from our parents, right? That's our biological body-mind. But Tommy and I are really deep into the soul essence, I imagine you are too, as to what is our true origin, because I've had children and I've seen their bodies, and I've been visited by a man that said, I want to have a baby with you, and then I lost the baby, or I thought I lost the baby. It came back to tell me that, they took it, and it was a gold orb type of thing outside my door, big, white, bright, radiant light. And I'm still not okay with that because I don't have an answer of our true origin, but I do have one of those strange experiences I don't like to talk about. But it bothers me, so that really is what got me on the path, besides, going to White Sands when I was a child and having all these experiences that are real to me. They're my real, I can, take a polygraph. These things happened to me when I died and went to the other side, and I found these things curious as to, well, what is our origin? Maybe there are beings coming and going out of this dimension. Maybe they always have. Who's to say that they're not always there? We're just at a lower level because we're in a 3D third dimension. We're not really operating 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th. So there's my little part. So I guess we'll round table back to Tommy. Tommy, your turn.
All right. What I want to talk about, I'm going to bring it backwards. Tina, I know you said you didn't want to talk about religion. But to me, religion is life. Spirituality could be part of life if we allowed it to be part of life. And the reason why I'm going to say, now, try to understand Moses, one of the oldest figures in our history, wrote and brainwashed trillions of people along the way. Not trillions, but multiple billions. All right. On that, Moses, when he was freeing the people, all these things that supposedly happened was proven by science to have happened. But it was proving their way. When Moses flooded, when the water turned to red, they said it was the rust that changed that. When the frogs came out, it was because of the rust in the water. When the mist killed all the children, in those days, the adults lived upstairs, the children lived downstairs, so it did kill all the children. So all the things happened, but scientifically they proved it was because of conditions of planet Earth. Then when we go into Sodom and Gomorrah, they proved that happened, but it wasn't God throwing balls down at people and killing them. It was basically a meteor shower that ransacked that whole area. So science will always prove the actual, what we believe as supposedly has to be real, rather than something might have created it, like a demon, a spirit, an angel, or God. So the scenario will
Tommy,
always be there because...
Real quick, I want to mention, Tommy, if you don't mind, your point well taken because of the gases that flew, that, for the children, the children that were killed, things like that. So maybe, I just want to make this point, and you can address this too, and so can Tina, is maybe as long as we know what the question is, we can come up with the answers. because lately in quantum physics, especially with Neil deGrasse Tyson, one of his big questions, and it's the big